Okay. Hi guys. Welcome to the slot first impressions. Just like slot 2, the impression are coming from people who wrote slot 1, but the slot 3 people are joining in as we speak. We were just having a conversation with Shivku, Rahul Reddy. GP was also a part of it. Zeel was a part of it. Rahul's here now. So I'll probably hand it over to Rahul to give his first impression, for all three sections, and then we'll just have a short conversation with you all as well in terms of how you all felt about the paper. Just a couple of
Okay.
things. It'd be great that while we are doing that, you all go ahead and write in the chat box what your attempts section wise were. So for example, 10, 12, 14 will mean 10 in VARC, 12 in DILR, and 14 in quant. It will help us understand. Also, level of difficulty आपको क्या लगा? EEE मतलब easy, easy, easy लगा. DDD मतलब difficult, difficult, difficult लगा. MMM मतलब moderate, moderate, moderate लगा. या उसका कोई combination. Rahul, over to you.
Right. I hope I'm audible. I'm in the car heading back from the center. So, yes, we start with the VARC section. Now, VARC section, the first thing I noticed is that you start with a VA question. So, it's not that all the passages came in one place and then the VA would start. So, we had a few questions of VA, then we get a passage, then we get a few questions of VA. Not that it would change much for us. But if somebody was saying that, look, I want to do all RC first and then VA, then you'll have to do a little bit of hunting. So that's a small thing. Passages, I think the first thing to look at is that probably the readability was not a problem. There was hardly any passage where you'd say you'll struggle to read. The language was fairly straightforward. I'm sure where our man Jijo will come up with the Fleischer Kincaid index very soon once we get the passages. But fundamentally, readability was not a problem, which saves on time. Some of the questions are tricky to be expected, but then we also had these double negative type questions. All of the following the author would agree except kind of stuff. Significant number of them. So one plus is that attempts should be slightly easier because you don't have to worry about the reading the part. I mean, the reading won't take too much time. Second, parajumbles not being there, which is a lovely thing. A lot of people get tempted by the theta factor, but it's the accuracy rate in general is not very good for parajumbles. So that I think is a good thing. Uh, so broadly, RC, I would say easy to moderate. Uh, para summary, again, easy to moderate. There was one really difficult question, probably. Uh, para completion had one difficult question. The others were okay. Odd para jumble was okay. So in comparison to last year, we are saying it's probably a slightly easier paper. Cutoff score should go up a little bit. So yeah, I think the numbers GB will bring it out. But yeah, two reasons. One, the readability being easy will allow you to attempt a little more, and not having parajumbles will also.
Okay, I think Rahul's net might have been an issue. Yeah, so I think what he was basically trying to state was overall, if you look at it, considering what students are also pointing out here, it seems like there is probably a difference of about one question between last year and this year. So last year, 99 was hovering somewhere in the vicinity of about 40, 41, maybe about 42. So this year, similar to 1 to 2 marks is what we feel. So 42 to 44 अगर आ रहा है 99 होगा. To those who are worried about sectional cutoff, if you're scoring in the vicinity of about 22 to 23 marks, you should get an 80 percentile. Basically, Rahul's back. I think his net is back. Rahul, are we audible? Can you hear us, Rahul? Okay, so while Rahul checks his network, we'll continue. So that's basically what the VARC section looks like. And if I'm going, Ravi, by what students are writing, I see Siddhant saying E, Srishti saying M, Krishna saying E, Chris
Siddhant
saying
was a
E.
great attempt in this. He has attempted all 24 questions. Sudha
Oh,
has
fab.
attempted 19 questions.
Chris has attempted 23. I see Meghna attempting
Meghna with
24.
24. Marmik
Sonali
Rawat
saying M, Marmik
21.
21.
Shaurya
So I
18.
think one thing is very clear. Students have attempted quite a bit. I think this is slightly more than what I've seen in slot 1 and slot 2 in terms of attempts for sure. Might have also helped knowing that verbal has not come too difficult that might have led and contributed to it, in case some of you all saw it. But I think one thing is very, very clear, even from the students' perspective, that easy to moderate he have VARC. Not, I don't see a lot of people calling it difficult or more than moderate. So Rahul, basically along the lines of what you are stating, couple of students are saying कि summary के एक दो questions were slightly difficult. So I don't know, was there?
Summary, I think one question was definitely difficult. The one which talked about trad wife and how superficiality, artifice, and all that. So the language was tricky. So one definite difficult. The other, yes, probably there's one definitely easy. The other one you could categorize or easy or moderate. One definite difficult was there. See, one thing that we should understand is when you have for people attempting high like 24, you are giving yourself a good chance. So assume even if 2 out of 3 go correct, you are 66% accuracy. You still probably end up with a 99 percentile. That's the kind of strength you get if you're able to attempt high. Because, 2 out of 3 is 18 correct. 18, 3 is 48 minus whatever.
Minus say 6,
40
7
plus.
also. If all are theta, you're still looking at
So
a
40
41
plus,
types, which is very, very
40
high.
plus. Very close to
And I think
99.
this, in contrast to last year, Rahul sir, is definitely an easier paper to sail through. At least 23, 24 questions attempt करने लायक था पेपर, तुम्हारा accuracy कितना भी हो.
So yes, 23, 24 is probably not for everyone, but 20 ho sakta tha. And the minute you attempt 20 and you are reasonably good, you're giving yourself a very good chance.
Perfect. So I think that part in verbal is very, very clear. Ki VARC perspective say it seems to be slightly easier than last year, and that's good news because that would have meant for all of you the paper started off on a good note. You'd heard good things about the paper. You'd heard कि ज़्यादा difficult नहीं है, confidence के साथ गए होगे, and verbal would have started on a good note as well. Let's see whether that translated into a good DILR section or not. This is what This is what the DILR section looked like. 2 sets of 5 questions each and 3 or 4 questions each, similar to what it was in slot 1 and 2. So pattern wise, obviously no change. The interesting part, Ravi, here is if I'm looking at the DILR attempts, I see Gaming Shashwat saying 9. I see Anurag saying 21 attempts in DILR. That is fabulous. Siddhant saying 17, which is also very good. Shubham saying
came
10.
in with 17.
Again 17. Sudha saying 10.
Shaurya has 16.
Ribhav 10. Chris Sutaria has 16 again. Meghna is saying 8 but expects good accuracy. Marmik is saying 18. Wow. 16 for Shaurya. Yeah. So if I'm looking at it again, Rahul, from a DILR, Ria has just put in 15. From a DILR percentage, attempt wise as well, I think compared to last year, one thing is very clear. Last year we used to see single digit numbers. Quant and DILR में single digit बहुत दिखता था.
Absolutely.
Attempt of 8, 9, 7. इस बार that single digit is not visible a lot, and a lot of students have actually breached that 14, 15 barrier, which means almost everybody has gone into
Which
4
used
sets
to be
for
very
sure.
rare.
Correct. So here 4 sets is almost a guarantee. True. This time the students have done. They've ventured into it for sure. I'm guessing 1 or 2 guesses would also be there because there were 10 theta questions. When you get so many non-MCQ and theta, you can go ahead and guess a couple extra because there is no negative marking. But venturing into 4 sets itself seems nice. So yeah, your take on DLR.
I think just one small addition. See, there are 2 sets which are a bit tricky. One was, and unfortunately, both had less amount of data. So there is a temptation to go into that. One was the set on OTT, which actually was a little tricky to just understand. The data wasn't much. The other was a set on air conditioning. Hopefully, air conditioning is a very, very new kind of a pattern, so a lot of students may not have gone for it. The other sets, which even though we had, for example, that protein and carbohydrates wala, even though the slightly higher number of parameters, that is probably what people should have gone for, because you work it out. It's okay, take a little more time, but work it out and you'll get questions. Similarly, the grid question on highways and ATMs is again more of a familiar type, which is what we kept saying. Look at familiarity as one of the first touchstones when you try to pick a set. Don't go into unfamiliar sets. So with that aspect, probably ATM and proteins, people who would have cracked that along with the GDP, that is where you cross your 12-14 barrier.
Yeah, and it's good to see so many people having crossed that barrier. मतलब one
Absolutely.
thing जो मेरे को यहाँ देख के लग रहा है is रवि GP राहुल hi GP welcome जो देख के लग रहा है 4 sets तो सबने venture किया which is very similar to slot 1 slot 2. 4 sets breach हो रहे हैं this year, something that we were not seeing till last year. 3 set breach करना भी कई बार difficult होता था. यहाँ 4 breaching is almost a guarantee. If you are going by what students are saying, old wine is saying protein and kid and elder sets were easy. So protein and the kid and elder one, Rahul, like you were stating, 2 sets which students are finding out to be very, very simple. Did nutrient set and GDPI? Shubham is saying, I think there were a few sets. Nutrient must have been the protein one. There was something with GDPI.
Yes.
So
GDPI was
DILR
kind of GDPI was more or less like old style DI, which is like the logic is not much. It's purely numbers and calculation kind of crunching. Those type of questions had become a little rare these days, but it's a toss up to the old CAT types and all that.
Correct. I'll actually put this question up, Ravi. This is something that I was stating, and both of us were stating, right, when we were discussing this as well, and we did put this up. And GP से भी जब बात हो रही थी, we were talking about this. Sanya में saying, GB sir, Ravi sir, LRDA attempts इसलिए ज़्यादा दिख रहे हैं क्योंकि बहुत टीटा दिए थे, and people have fluked in it. That means guessed. So I doubt if people have actually solved 2-digit. This is actually not a bad take. I think the take is correct here. With 10 टीटा questions out of 22. 50% of the questions roughly you can actually guess. So it's like an NMAT paper for 50% of it.
I did it. I did it for 4 questions in my attempt. I didn't bother calculating it. बोला इन दोनों में से कुछ होगा, randomly I have attempted 4 questions.
Having said that, one thing which I clearly see across the 3 slots and when I compare it to last year is फिर भी आके लोग एटलीस्ट 3 सेट तो गारंटीड बोल रहे हैं जो अटेम्प्टेबल थे, एंड 4th जिसमें एंट्री मार सकते थे. So it is not just fluke, it is not just guesswork. There is also a little bit of method to the madness. I feel that 3 to 4 sets at least मतलब लास्ट ईयर तो ऐसे होता था कि लास्ट सेट तो देख भी नहीं पाते थे, सेकंड लास्ट सेट भी 90% ऑफ द पीपल वुडंट सी. इधर ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Basis how it's going.
starter set देखे हैं लोगों ने, देखे हैं मतलब.
Correct.
That itself is an achievement over last year.
Big achievement over last year.
शिवकू एंड रवि, सॉरी गौतम, ये एक सवाल आया है that first set is probably wrong ATM वाला. शिवकू एंड राहुल will need to tell us उसमें.
So this probably what we could do is we can pick this up in the in-depth analysis that we'll do at 8. GP, the dogs are also there. Hi. Nice to see them.
Justy and GP.
Yeah.
We can probably pick this up in the in-depth analysis at that point in time. We could probably discuss this a little in-depth. But abhi first impression perspective se basis what Rahul was stating, what Chivku has stated as well, in a previous call, it seems like DILR, seems to be something like a 3-set attempt for sure that you should have looked at. Verbal seems to be very similar to last year, maybe 1 or 2 questions more. यहाँ पे मजे कर रहे हैं लोग with respect to your pets, GP, in the chat box. They enjoyed that.
It's who let the dogs out? नहीं, dogs in यार, घर के अंदर आए हैं.
I am believe in only one Jussi bhai.
Always. even today, again you had to believe in one Jussi bhai.
I think let's stick to quant, GB, quickly.
Quant. So Rahul, I think, had to drop off because of his net, but we did have a chat with Chivku and Rahul. Ravi, if you want to pick it up, quant.
I think I'll summarize what all we have to say about quant this year. Chivku came out of the exam and said last year he said कि यार quant में पसीना आया. This time I felt that a good student will be able to touch 15 questions in the quant paper. मतलब there were 15 questions. I'm not saying that everyone will attempt those 15 questions. Don't get me wrong. But there were 15 questions which could have been done. जिसमें से even if you have picked those 11 to 12 questions, that would have been a very good attempt for this paper, right? In fact, there was a scope of probably going one more question extra over there is what we have gathered from both Shiko and Rahul. I think it also has to do a lot with the momentum you carry from the VARC and the DILR section, because both of the sections, typically the attempts have gone higher, and typically people have felt comfortable as compared to last year in DILR as well as VARC. I think the quant attempts also would have increased a little, and that is what we can see from the comments also, that people have attempted more than, I mean, we see double digit letters in quant, numbers in quant. लास्ट ईयर वी रिमेम्बर कमिंग आउट ऑफ द एग्जाम इट्स है कि चार क्वेश्चन पे 80 परसेंटाइल आ जाएगा।
लास्ट ईयर डबल डिजिट ढूंढ रहे थे, एक भी बंदा और डबल डिजिट, ये तो गारंटी 99।
बट दिस ईयर आई थिंक 99 लाने के लिए यू विल हैव टू टच दैट 13th 14th क्वेश्चन डेफिनेटली इन दिस स्लॉट एज वेल, which is similar to slot 1 in terms of the story, which is probably a tad easier than slot 2. If you look at the comparison from slot 2, we got to know that slot 2 is probably a question, one and a half questions tougher than what slot 1 was, right? And I think slot 3 ends up being the easiest of the 3 slots as per our analysis so far. But let the data come in. We'll be going into it. This is only the first impression.
So there are two parts to it. I like what Jack Nicholson has put in, because I used to find him in all our mock analysis as well, and some of our sessions recently. He's saying no cutoff will be high, so need more marks. So I think he's basically trying to state that yes, slightly easy paper or easier paper as compared to what we've seen over the last couple of years. So Rahul is back as well. Rahul, we just ventured into quant and what students were talking about it. Mostly we see the attempts. We see most of the students in double-digit numbers, something that we weren't seeing over the last year or so. So that looks nice. Students are pointing out that they were able to attempt a few questions. What was your take on quant overall?
See, quant, I don't attempt all types of questions, so that's the first disclaimer. So I do much more of arithmetic than anything else. Arithmetic was definitely easier than last year. I think last year arithmetic questions were not easy to solve, most of them. Here we had fairly straightforward arithmetic questions. A few where a little bit of calculation is required, but otherwise I think a decent number of easy questions. So if I extrapolate it, yes, it should be. And last year was, I think, a slightly tougher paper. So from that perspective, it is easier than last year.
And that's what it feels like as well from what students are pointing out. A couple of questions coming, sir. If you were to place this paper from a 21, 22, 23 perspective, where would you put it? I think unanimously we've been talking about this throughout the day. This was closest to 2021. 23 turned out to be the toughest. All 3 slots are closest to 21. You could maybe even say it's somewhere between 21 and 22. 22 mein, I think 99 was about 82, 83 marks. And 21 mein, it was about 95 marks. So maybe somewhere between, but much closer to 21 than 22. So that's what it seems like to us at this moment in time. But as we state, these are first impressions. We'll know more once you give us more data. So I would recommend and urge all of y'all to go to www.careerlauncher.com/cat and feed in the data. Put in your expected attempts and what your accuracy you feel it would be, so that we'll be able to judge the data and thereby come up with slightly more conclusive analysis in terms of what the cutoffs could be. It will also help us when we join you for the in-depth analysis at 8 p.m. because we'll have some data to talk about in terms of what the expected cutoffs could be. One more thing is, we will go ahead and talk about a few questions of slot 3 as well at 8 p.m. We'll pick up a few questions and solve them, quant and DILR specifically. Rahul's here. He remembers at least 3 RCs verbatim. वो पढ़ाई देगा आपको वो तीनों RC, but so we'll get a little into VRC as well. So please do go ahead and join us at that time. But I would urge you all to go ahead and feed in as much data as possible at www.careerlauncher.com/cat so that we are able to give valid estimates, things that will help you understand what your pathway should be over the course of the next month or so. Also, do go ahead and like this video. You like it, we'll know that you liked it, and then we'll go ahead and have the in-depth analysis and talk a little bit more about it, and hopefully go ahead and solve a few questions, because that's what we are looking at. Overall, just to summarize what we've been talking about, VARC similar to last year, maybe 1 or 2 marks higher, so a 99 roughly at 42 to 44. DILR easier than last year, at least slightly, so 1 to 2 questions higher. That means close to around a 30 score for a 99. Quant guaranteed easier than last year, about 2 to 3 questions higher. 99 seems to be roughly around 30 to 32. Overall, 99 seems to be around the 90-92 mark range. These are our first impressions. More on this in about 40-45 minutes from now. Take a half an hour break, go to careerlauncher.com/cat, fill in the data, and go ahead and watch IPL for half an hour. Join us at 8. Auctions is what I mean.
Okay. And one more thing, if you can remember the quant and DILR questions, please write them down. Because if you share those questions with us, some of the faculty members will be able to tell you कि तुम्हारा answer सही है कि गलत है. Okay,
That's a good idea
share
to
those
do that.
questions will be helpful, right?
Yeah, so at 8 p.m. when we do the in-depth analysis, we might remember 8-10, Rahul, Shivku, Naveen, 8-10, 12. If you remember, please write them down, jot them down, put it in the chat box when we meet so that we can pick up those questions and tell you the right answer. It'll help you estimate where you are as well. So please do that. Okay, catch you at 8 p.m. Thanks everybody. See you then.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.